Hey guys, before you ask, the thing is I actually did get a new mic, but unfortunately it still hasn't arrived to my country due to the complications when it comes down to importing things from abroad to Dhaka, because they don't necessarily provide any sort of shipping services for you. So on the basis of that, a much more complicated measure is needed to be taken, and it's because of that that the mic still hasn't arrived in Dhaka, and it will most probably arrive by this Saturday. So until then, please bear with this abomination of a mic for the last time, because I can assure you that this will never happen again. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your friendly neighborhood starter man, DOC Gunner here, bringing you people the week 2 of the free agency and trade transactions. Now, to those that don't know how this works, there will be a link down below in the description which leads to the week 1 of the free agency and trade transactions, where the rules are thoroughly explained. So do check it out and come back to the video if you want to know the rules. That being said, this week had a lot of transactions being made to the point where this video will be divided into 2 parts. One covering the Kanto Conference and the other covering the Johto Conference. And as you may already know by looking at the video title, this video will be covering the Kanto Conference. No shit, Sherlock. Now, as you can see by looking at the screen before you, the Detroit Steel Wings decided to drop Mawile and pick up Audino, while the San Francisco Giants decided to drop Spiritomb and pick up Aromatisse. And truth be told, I can't help but completely agree with one of the transactions that were made, while being a bit skeptical about the second transaction that was made. So I'm just gonna start off with the Detroit Steel Wings right here and go on the record to say that Crimson made a completely right choice by dropping Mawile and getting Audino. Because the thing is, when you look at Mawile in Crimson's team, I think it's pretty much evident that other than losing a fourth stealth rocker and a fairy type, he isn't necessarily losing much. Not to mention the fact that other than being a Mega Mawile or being used in NU, Mawile is pretty underwhelming. And to top it off, other than a Fairy Steel Dragon Core in the form of a Latios and a Mawile, it wasn't necessarily doing much for Crimson's team. I mean, literally, other than the point that I just mentioned, I see absolutely no sort of chemistry when it comes down to Mawile in the Detroit Steel Wings. I mean, I have more chemistry with my imaginary ex than Mawile does have in the Detroit Steel Wings. So yeah, on the basis of that, Crimson made a very good choice by dropping Mawile and getting Audino in its place, because while Audino on the other hand does wonders for Crimson's team, because to anybody that has been watching the league play long enough, they know for a fact that clerics are greatly appreciated. And Audino has access to a very good ability known as Regenerator, and at the same time has access to a very wide move pool, which it can abuse in order to take down mons that are quad weak to it. So Crimson can play around with that a lot, and at the same time, it's because of having a cleric in the form of an Audino that Pokemon like Electros, Crocodile, and Registeel, both of which are extremely bulky Pokemon if the set is varied to that, will have much more longevity. And it also must be considered that when you have a Mega Charizard X, the Pokemon that can just flat out end careers, yes, I use that same line again, sue me! It is pretty much evident that the opponent will do everything within his power to cripple it. Which is why they'll probably pack T-Wave on other defensive mons like the skill players that they are. So on the basis of that, this is where Audino comes to the rescue. Because Crimson won't necessarily have to worry about the probability about getting his Charizard paralyzed and crippled in the end, because by having a cleric in the form of an Audino, he can easily heal well off that damage, and Charizard X will not be able to be paralyzed anymore and will have the liberty to sweep again. So with all these factors being considered, it pretty much adds together to create a recipe of disaster for Crimson's opponents. And that is exactly why I completely agree with whatever transaction that Crimson just made. So yeah, that's basically it for the Detroit Steel Wings. And let's move on to the San Francisco Giants, who decided to drop their Spiritomb and take Aromatisse in its place. And truth be told, I'm quite skeptical about it, to be honest, because whenever I look at his team, he already does have a cleric in the form of a Blissey. Not to mention the fact that he also does have Eladias in case he's worried about Blissey's speed, which he can easily use to wish past things. And other than the fact that he is getting access to a fairy type, it isn't necessarily doing much for his squad. Because Aromatisse, just like any other fairy, well, just like most fairies out there, are clerics. And it is quite a poor one too, because things like Clefable, Sylveon, and last but not least, Florges outclass it in every possible aspect. So this will pretty much force the Aromatisse to have one role in general, and it's because of its stat and the fact that each and every single team will have a top tier Pokemon with them that makes me think that he didn't necessarily make the right choice in this one. And with having Spiritomb, he was basically having a complete immunity to fighting, which doesn't necessarily bring his team down in any way, and also have the ability to burn things with Will-O-Wisp. And by losing Spiritomb, he isn't necessarily getting any sort of Pokemon that can burn things with Will-O-Wisp, other than once again being the most skillful player in the world and getting scald burns with Vaporeon, which also is another cleric. So, therefore, by having 3 freaking clerics in your team, I really don't understand the point of having an Aromatisse in your squad, minus the fact that you're a fairy type. But even after that, Aromatisse can't necessarily do much on the offensive side either. So, I really don't know how to feel about that, to be honest. And it will be quite frankly, it will be interesting to see how Geo manages to make it work. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see now, don't we? So yeah, that's basically it for the transactions that were made for the Kanto Conference. Like I said, the Johto Conference will be covered in the next part of the video. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, guys. Do let me know what you think of the transactions that were made in the Kanto Conference, because quite frankly, I want to know what you guys think. So with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.